Team Random Mirror Sibs on Green Arabia for the first game. This is my first time casting Deathmatch alone without the help of an expert Deathmatch player, and as someone who more or less exclusively plays and watches random maps, I do, as I said before, approach this with some trepidation, but I'll hope I've learned enough off Kellen to make some sense of what's going on. Right, we have a Vikings war, which is interesting because I don't know if I've seen too many Vikings wars before in DM. Let's have a look at the builds for the players that they've started off with. I'm on Sacrifice's point of view, and he's in the blue colour, so let's start off looking at him. He's going for 1, 2 archery ranges, 2 barracks, 3 archery range, 3 barracks, 4 barracks, 3 siege workshops and a castle to start off with as well. Looking at Jidba, he hasn't placed anywhere near as many building foundations down. Seems to be going with 3 barracks and 4 archery ranges. A little bit later on, siege workshop placement and such. Also with an early monastery to go for relics straight away. He's actually got 2 relics towards the top of the map which you can kind of strike out for straight away. But a similar thing going on for Sacrifice down here. Basically 2 relics for each player and 1 in the middle. There is something of a hill in the middle, which will be an important strategic point. A little bit closer to Jibba to actually get onto it. And Jibba's already going to start pushing out into that area, laying down a castle near to it, although not actually on it, controlling his front goal as well as being pretty close to one of his extra ones. In the chat they're saying that blue was actually housed for quite a long time, which we see has led to a big population difference between the 2 players. Not only 2 villages, but quite sizable difference in the military of roughly 20. And as Riyab says, I want to leave that on because it's quite helpful. That's quite a difference. Suggestions that Sacrifice is nervous here. Jibba kind of taking the initiative here, moving forward with his army, and just possibly destroyed 1 building or certainly forced a cancellation there. Looks like Jibba got the better of that fight as well, possibly with more arbalest mixed into it. Lots of blue infantry going down. So far it's been Jidba that's taken more of the initiative, pushing out across the map and just looking for different angles, whereas Sacrifice seems to be just focusing on building up a little bit. Obviously he's behind as well, so he doesn't want to come out of his shell too much, but he's a little bit more cautious, whereas Jidba's kind of exploring and seeing what he can do, where he can pick off villages, etc., pick off small groups of units. Although saying that, Sacrifice does have a pretty large group moving around the left hand side here. Going to be able to move in and maybe pick off some monks that are picking up relics if that one actually starts to move. Sacrifice mixing lots of rounds into these fights, which enables him to tank tons of that archer fire, but doesn't really have the army presence here, and those champions will make really short work of the rams. So Jibba in good position to apply the pressure at this point. The populations have started to get much closer though. Sacrifice has recovered from that poor start. I'm going to turn the in-game volume down just a tiny bit because it's just a little bit too loud for me. Don't know how it sounds to you guys, but I think it's going to be okay if I turn it down just a little bit. I also need that scroll speed down actually for casting. Sorry for needing to adjust these settings, but it'll be a better experience. Jidba had some trebs starting to rain down fire on the castles of Sacrifice, but he's realised he's not really going to be able to keep them safe. Sacrifice is pushing out with a lot of rams and stuff, and he's retreated them a little bit. There's a ton of chat going on here about how Sacrifice was scared and nervous to play. I mean, it did show in his start. Both players starting to transition into lots of onagers here to add into the mix. And Sacrifice looks doing pretty well here. He's pushing forward and removing most of the red from this area, you have to say.
Yes.
Kind of stabilising on the halfway point and really getting more onto this hill as well. If he can kind of fortify this area, and then he's going to have an attack bonus whilst attacking Jidba's buildings and fortifications that he's trying to build up around his own forward gold plus the extra map gold. Don't think we've seen any berserks. Okay, here we go. Jidba himself is mixing in berserks at this point. Look how his economy is looking as well. If we look at the villager numbers, 64 to 37, so Jidba building up his eco much faster through the kind of early 2 into transition into the mid-game. I think that's something that I've noticed as someone who's new to deathmatch, that players frequently, the better players are frequently getting ahead in villages early on, but it doesn't always actually translate into a win, although it does set them up for a really good position in the mid-game. Sometimes the initial push can do a lot of damage and kind of strike at the heart of that more eco-oriented approach, and for now Sacrifice is doing a good job of pushing against Jidba, whilst not really getting left in the dust as far as eco is concerned. He's just a little bit behind it. He's got twice as much army, which is absolutely crucial. No point having eco if you don't have army to protect it, and right now Jidba is getting pushed all the way back right into his starting base. The Onagers are doing good work for Jibba here, along with Castle Fire, and Sacrifice is going to be forced to regroup a bit, but he's done really well here in this initial attack. Also good raiding up here, idling that gold, killing a bunch of villagers there, and it gives Sacrifice the opportunity to take control of this hill if he was to bring villagers forward and try and fortify it. As it happens though, Jibba is, after repelling Sacrifice's push right on the edge of the base, he's reacted really quickly and retaking this area, putting a castle back up, and basically trying to make that push that Sacrifice executed and all of the ground that he took not really pay off if he just walks back in. But that said, Sacrifice himself is remasked, gonna have another go, and Jibba's army kind of went AFK, and he really only has Onagers a little bit over here. So once that castle may well be taken down, Jibba's going to throw more villagers onto it to try and finish it. All the Onagers going down, that's quite a sizable loss for Jibba there, and Sacrifice is the one bringing more and more siege into the equation. Siege rams just way too powerful, taking down that castle quickly. I think Jidba deleted it. And Sacrifice has actually taken the lead in villages as well. I mean, this will be down to the successful raiding that Sacrifice was doing up here, but also he's just having created that breathing room, forced Jidba right back into his base, and Jidba also losing a few bills here. He's got that eco done in behind his kind of pushing back of Jidba across the whole map. Also, as they're saying here, 4 relics for player 1, that's the blue player, Sacrifice. Saying that it makes a huge difference in Vikings War, and people are saying that this is the expert deathmatch players and the spectators are calling GG against Jidba, which would be a little bit of a surprise. Not a great surprise, but just by the seeding, Jidba is the overall favourite here, so if Sacrifice can take a win here, that would be huge for him. Jibba's really throwing villagers onto that front gold, trying to get it all mined out. I'm not sure if he's mined too much elsewhere. That gold, I think that was his main, he's more or less mined it out, and yeah, that front gold is going to be really important for him. Looks like he's got another one there. But with 4 relics in the bank for Sacrifice, Jidba kind of having to mine contested gold, this could be really pivotal in the game if Jidba can't at least access this gold and maybe find another one as well. Looks like Sacrifice trying to complete some extra buildings off to the side to raid from that direction, but one berserk picking it all off. Seems some kind of stabilization here, both players with several castles in the vicinity. They're starting to add trebs to it, they're beginning treb war here, siege rams being mixed into the equation, but that's been a defining feature of the game thus far, that Sacrifice has made much better use of and created more siege rams to assist in his push. Taking a look at the eco, it's getting to be fairly similar. Obviously the difference of 4 relics is nice, that's like about 6 villages mining gold or something. But the gold is really important in the Vikings War. But Jibba has recovered. I think the fact that the expert deathmatch players who are spectating, they're saying GG, but I think there's some stabilization here. Sacrifice, whilst he controls all those relics, will always have an advantage, although it is important to note that of those 115 villagers that both players have, Jibba currently with 41 idols. Not sure where all those idle villagers are actually, but they're somewhere, maybe hiding within the castles. But he doesn't really seem to be taking steps to fix that. The count is holding pretty steady. Let's have a look at resources. See that sacrifice with 1,000 more gold in the bank. Not surprising. He's managing to access this forward gold. He's kept Jidba from being able to mine his third gold uninterrupted, and he's got those relics in the bank, of course. Now we're seeing that a big engagement after the kind of stabilization. The players choosing to re-engage. Lots of tread fire, lots of onager fire. Both players sustaining heavy losses here. But once again, sacrifice making better use of siege rams. That said, I think more onagers for Jibba have done damage. And as the dust starts to settle a little bit on that, we basically see a similar situation for both players where they just have arbalest and trebs left. And a few berserks being added to the fray again. Seems Jibba's kind of letting his arbalest stray a bit forward here, although he might yet snipe some trebuchets in doing so, but taking a lot of losses there, and that means that having sustained all that fire, sacrifice now with double the military once again. Did some nice little berserk raiding here up towards the top, but with the size of the economies, not game deciding to just do some minor raiding around the edges like this. That said, I feel Sacrifice has better control over the map now. He's the one seizing the initiative, applying the pressure and choosing where the fights happen. All the time he will have those 4 relics securing more and more gold. Also important to note that as they were saying up here, the market wasn't yet taken by either player. I don't think either of them have sold anything. I think right now Sacrifice probably needs a few more trebs to help him win this treble with Jidba, but he has taken down Jibba's castle. His own one will stay alive for now, with only really that one trebuchet firing upon it. I think Sacrifice is making a nice little split push over here on the right. He's got enough army here to just protect those trebs and siege units that he's moving over here, doing some good damage to the infrastructure. Might take down a castle and some TCs. But even as I looked over there, the 2 players re-engaged on the left. See a bunch of onagers go down for each, but more or less it's the same thing. After every fight, they just basically find out that they've got some arbalests left and maybe a treb or 2. They lose each other's onagers. But this is something that can potentially change that up. A nice big ram train coming in to Sacrifice here, although the berserks ripping those battering rams to shreds, slightly out of position. The rest of Sacrifice's army here not able to shoot those berserks as they attack the rams, and all those rams going down. Big onager shot. Well, that's a bit. Yes. An onager shot, almost taking down the trebuchet, but several more arrive, trying to raid down fire upon that castle with the aid of the hill bonus. Berserks from Jidba will try and shred those trebuchets, but they do survive, and that castle is not going to be in existence any longer, I don't think, giving Sacrifice the opportunity to add another castle in this area, and he's starting to take good map control now, even trying to fortify the wall up the whole map. Got lots of castles in nice spots, and I think he has all the cards here. Jidba even being reduced to skirms here, which is fine if the enemy's just got arbalest. Actually, Sacrifice adding in his own skirms, but as soon as onagers get into the fray, those skirmishes are going to be pretty meaningless. And right now I think we're starting to see the difference in the gold collected probably over the course of the game. I'd be shocked if when I look here, yep, Sacrifice with 1,000 extra gold. Not a big difference, but by the end, a few extra siege weapons. He's traded a bit better, used siege rams nicely, and a really nice game for him. It looked as if he'd had a nervous, poor start, but he's kind of stabilised the situation, pushed Jidba all the way back to the edge of his base, and although Jidba stabilized, and they had a kind of war over that line just outside Jidba's base, Sacrifice came off the better from it. I think with better army composition, really, by adding in a lot of extra siege rams, tanking a lot of arbalest fire. So game 1 goes to Sacrifice, and as I said, Jidba being the #1 seed, that would have been the less favoured outcome, but it gives Sacrifice lots of momentum to try and take the next few games, or some of the next few games, and have a chance of winning the series against the player who is most fancied to win the tournament, and who, as somebody said, has not ever lost a 1v1 tournament, or has not ever failed to win at any tournament that he's entered. Some debate going on in the chat about the merits of the 1.4 patrol and auto-attacking siege rams that auto-attack other siege units, saying that it kind of lowered the skill threshold. I can kind of see that argument that they're saying. Can make noobs so much stronger. I think if you were a noob, you wouldn't be the player like these guys. Jibba having some complaints about the Green Arabia for the map, for the tournament, the DMWCGA, saying that it murders the playstyle. Jibba's front goals obviously being quite important in that game as well. And as Praxis says, map is the same for both of them, for both players. Alright, Goths War on Green Arabia. So this is one of the settings for... is my stream offline? What on earth? Someone tell me in the chat if my stream is on offline, because it went off on the phone. Okay, sorry guys, I just need to check because I need to be able to see that it's online, because that when my phone tells me it goes offline, that's just freaked me out. Alright, Goths War on GA. I think this is one of the set settings. Certainly one of the set settings is a Goths War on some map. Looking at Sacrifice's point of view in the blue once more, got a lot of barracks being laid down. Obviously also siege workshops straight away. For Jibba, basically the same build up. About half a dozen barracks. Seems like Sacrifice maybe went with 1 or 2 less barracks. He's streaming Huskarls right across the map trying to do raiding, and it seems he's got a bit of the initiative here. He's the one trying to pick off vills and such, whereas Jidba is the one who's sitting back a little bit more, perhaps making more champions than Sacrifice is. So although Sacrifice is massing some at home, trying to add in heavy scorpions to help defend from the raiding as well. Looking at the village account though, this has been a successful rush by Sacrifice, picking up some vills at least, and really slowing down Jibba's build-ups. See kind of specks of Conquerors and random Huskarls chasing each other all over the map right now. I like this from Sacrifice, leaving a few units on the extra gold piles of Jidba, so that if he moves out to take those resources with unguarded villagers, the villagers will get picked off by the units activating. Jibba now pushing out across the map with a big champion push, backed up by a few scorpions. He'll intercept a few Huskarls from Sacrifice that made easy pickings, and Sacrifice's main army is going to pass on by to the left side, but also to the right side. Seems like Jidba with an approach more based on just sitting in his base for the first couple of minutes, massing up and then pushing out across the middle, whereas Sacrifice is first try to rush, and then he's kind of attacking down the sides and not just down the middle, which I think seemed to remember Kellen telling me it was a nice strategy in a Goths war to attack down the sides and not only focus down the middle. And you see Sacrifice, we saw that huge army going across the map for Jidba, ending up being pulverised more or less by just some Scorpions in defence from Sacrifice. Jibba also moving around to the north, but seems Sacrifice mounting an effective defence there as well. The villager difference between the two players remains at about 5, 6, 7. So Sacrifice still going to have a slight edge in getting eco up, and he's actually with 40 more military as well. The population difference between the two players is very, very big, 50 in fact. And perhaps Jibba's feeling the effect of that early game raiding that Sacrifice did with the Huskar rush. Nice castle on the front though for Sacrifice here, and he's going to lay claim to his extra gold as well. Another castle on that hill, and seems Jibba's kind of cleared up the raiding around his base, but as I say, Sacrifice getting ahead on early eco, although military numbers have stabilised at least, or evened up, sorry, with both players with outrageous 120, 130 military. Braxies in the chat calling that this is going to be a long game with the hills that they have. Obviously Jibba's got a really nice one to defend for Sacrifice. He could maybe occupy these. Doesn't have ones that quite as close to his base. Here monks popping out for Sacrifice, trying to get those relics up. I will have a look in a moment once these have been cleared up to see how many relics. Just one being picked up for Sacrifice right now. Jibba not yet with one banked. Seems like Sacrifice with just a couple of units here has done a really good job of delaying the build up of food economy over here. That's hugely important in a Goths war, of course. You need so much food to continue spamming infantry to this extent. Although wood and gold obviously becomes important to add those all important Scorpions to then counter the infantry spam. So you basically just need big eco to keep the spamming, and Sacrifice is now making a very big, well, beginning to build up a very big lead over Jidba right now. 25 more villagers, a lot more Scorpions on the map by the looks of it as well. This would be quite dangerous if Sacrifice was pushing in with infantry backing up the Scorpions, and then maybe some trebs to take down buildings as well. But just now he seems to be lurking with dangerous intent. Kellen saying good raiding by Bass. Have to agree. Would like even now, as after Jibba, Bass being sacrificed, by the way, his name's Bass too. Even now, Jibba having to divert lots of units over here to continue building up food eco in that area. Players taking a huge engagement on the middle here. Some Huskars in the mix, tanking lots of Scorpion fire there, but Sacrifice does have the hill and will be raining down with extra attack bonuses on Jibba, who's forced to retreat. And it'd be really nice for Sacrifice now, having taken this position, taken a good fight. He had a couple of trebs to just park sort of there, start firing upon these castles. But it seems his attention is also focused on resuming raiding on the right hand side. Bass in beast mode. Yeah, here we go. Treb's going to be added into the equation for Sacrifice. See, I'm starting to get the hang of this. And population difference very big between the two players. Sacrifice basically capped now. Jibba only with 2/3 of the pop cap. Military numbers have fallen. If we look at him, he has no food whatsoever. So this raiding over here has been hugely important in halting Sacrifice early game food build up. This is basically the only farming that they have. That Jibba has at this point. Great strategic castle by Sacrifice on the front to enable him to make more trebs from that location and to kind of secure this area as he engages in the treb war. That said, Jidba possibly has a higher hill here than there. I'm not sure, but either way those two hills will be tough to break for either player. Something else to notice as well, 4 relics for Sacrifice, 5 relics, that is a huge deal. 5 relics in a Goth war is going to be massive going forward. Sacrifice flight and good gold, not really stockpiling food at this point, but with the villager advantage he will have more farms down at this point. Just quickly scrolling over his base, you look at these gigantic swathes of farmland compared to Jibba, much smaller. Interesting stuff going on the right hand side, mainly just Sacrifice trying to sneak barracks and do raid with Huskars from the side. Also an extra gold over that right hand side for him to try and stop Jibba from taking control of. Bombard cannons being thrown into the mix for Jibba as well here. Nice option to just snipe all of those Scorpions, Onagers, Trebs, everything really. Sacrifice with a hugely siege-heavy approach through the middle. Bombard cannons of his own as well though, which kind of neuters that. Let's take a look at Jibba's point of view for resources.
Yes.
Lots of gold in the bank still, but no food. And he continues to suffer some raiding. Huskarls just roaming around. And
yes.
the front, he's losing his position as well. One castle going down. Soon to be another one, I think. And lots of army for sacrifice in this position. I feel I have to agree with the people in the chat saying saying that it's GG soon. Jidba is crumbling on the front. He's suffering raiding to either side. And then we look at the mini-map. Sacrifices everywhere. Jidba back into the corner and GG. I think it was Schmolligan, the wildest moose, saying that Jibba can't win without a horse sieve. That's pretty funny because there's a well-known kind of meme, if you like, where Jidba says to Rubenstock, I want to play something funny with horses like Huns, and Rubenstock is like, I will show you horses. And we've had infantry and archer sibs in the case of Vikings thus far. So no horses for Jibba, unfortunately. And we see the lower seed, who just scraped through his encounter with Rubenstock, now taking a 2-0 lead over Jibba. I think few would have been expecting this, but this is suddenly very exciting to see Jidba in danger. If this was single elimination, then Jibba would be in huge danger here, but he does of course have that losers bracket of the second chance in the losers bracket, basically, in the Gold Cup to fall back on. Even Sacrifice is getting in on the action. You want horse, real horse, Jidba. Okay, game starting. They're not hanging around. Best of 7, so Sacrifice is only 2 games away from victory, and he will now have his home map with his chosen Civ War to try and take one step closer. Sacrifice asked Jidba, do you want the horses? And Jidba was like, of course. And Sacrifice is like, lovely, let's do it. Let's see what he picks. Sacrifice may deny Jidba his horses for another game, but game 4, I think, is Huns on Green Arabia, so at least he'll have a chance in game 4. If he doesn't in this game 3. Spectator delay is almost done, almost into that 3rd game right now. And it's Huns.
Yes.
So Sacrifice choosing to play Jibba at his own game, I think. I'll take a look at the builds once those building foundations have been laid down. 1, 2, 3, 4 stables. Wow, this is a lot of buildings to try and count. 5, 6. Wow, this is a ton of ranges going down for Sacrifice. Maybe like 6, 7 ranges, 4, 5 barracks. Market coming out for Jibba, important to note, but I think Sacrifice has seen that with his scout there. Yeah, he's seen the market, so he'll know what's going on here. So Jibba's going to sell off some resources here. In fact, a lot of resources being sold there. Something like, I don't know, 5,000-6,000 at least. So Jibba's going to go for a very heavy gold strategy. Yep, somebody counting here for me. 4.8 thousand, so soon a Daywalker. Big market, so that's a hugely aggressive strategy by Jidba. I thought he was known as a kind of patient. They're saying he's angry. I thought he was known as a patient player, but he's really going for the kill here. Seems sacrificing his performance thus far on the 2-0 scoreline has angered him, so he's basically going to go perhaps with lots of paladins, but he will struggle if we go into the kind of mid-late game, because Sacrifice will have a lot more resources banked up there. But interestingly to note, as they're saying here, Jidba did manage to get a couple of villager advantage with his raiding picking off a couple. Not a great many, so to speak, only a couple of difference between the two players, so may just slow down Sacrifice just that tiny little bit when he's already going to be probably put on the defensive by the fact that Jibba is going like full aggression, full angry mode. And Jibba just slightly maintaining a pop lead as well, getting military out just a little bit faster. This early fight looks to be going fairly evenly. Extra reinforcements coming for Sacrifice start turning in his favour, but then a ton more arrives for Jidba, and this is going to turn into an absolute bloodbath. Importantly, Sacrifice with some good usage of siege rams, which he's able to do, being the kind of defender in this situation, tanking some cavalry archer fire. I expected Jibba to have more paladins mixed in to this, considering he went. But then again, he is selling off a lot of food as well, I think. I'm going to continue to see how this progresses, but just look what's going on up here. Nothing too much, extra TCs going up. TC denied there by Jibba. Jibba going for this castle as well to try and stop Sacrifice mining his third forward gold. Sacrifice is pushing this back nicely. But Jidba's reinforcements kind of occupying a position on this hill, some of the CA in the back getting a hill bonus, and Sacrifice wisely retreating here. Instead he's going to try and make use of his own hill, but the numbers just keep coming for Jidba, and the population for Jidba is so much more, almost pop cap, for a Sacrifice only 120, 150 military to 95, it's all on this one big push. Jidba signalled his intentions with that huge market play that he was just going to go all out through the middle, and so far he's pushing and pushing and pushing really well. Such a big population advantage, and Sacrifice is slowly losing ground here. He has got 2 castles up in nice spots, especially one on the hill firing down, and if he's lucky he may even get this third one up, but Jibba's CA are starting to fire upon the vills that try and finish off that castle. Siege Ram's doing a really crucial job here for Sacrifice to try and hold the line, but the numbers are just there for Jibba. And Jibba's own siege Rams are finally starting to get into the mix, try and take down the castles, tanks on fire. Jibba smash, Hulk smash. Tread war going on up here. Looks like Jibba may lose that out on that one actually, but this castle could easily go down as there are no villagers repairing it. Sacrifice starting to be completely whittled away by the looks of it, really struggling to maintain the numbers here. So many more cavalry archers for Jibba, and it's looking to be Sacrifice will be pegged back here if the judgment of the expert DM players in the chat is to be trusted. Seems Jibba doing a better job of taking map control as well, TCing extra golds, pushing forward into the middle of the map. Looks like he's going to try and regroup a little bit though. Skirm power, they say, as Jidba's entire army retreats from 10 skirms. But sensible retreat to try and take the hill. And you know, this is what Sacrifice needs to see. You need to see Jidba being pushed back a little bit, because if he can take it to the longer game, he'll have more of a chance having not used the market. And skirms doing work. Jidba, let's look at Jibba's resources. He is out of wood and almost out of gold. Some food in the mix at least, but he's behind on, he's actually ahead on total eco, so has the potential to replenish his stocks. For Sacrifice, he's completely out of food. He did have a lot of wood and gold, but he's literally just spent all the wood on something. That something being lots of heavy cavalry archers and siege rams. No surprise there. Economy difference between the two players is it's closing more or less the same now. But it seems to have stabilised. Very much so here. Anybody with relics at this point? Sacrifice with non-banked. Jibba with 1, creating an extra monk. It seems Jibba just almost pausing for thought here. Lots of resources still in the bank. He's pop capped. He's actually got a big army coming in on the right hand side, and this could do a lot of damage to Sacrifice, who's also not taking a fantastic fight here because he's fighting uphill. Siege Rams in the mix as well. Rams going to take each other out, and that will leave Jidba with the position on the hill still. Although Sacrifice, his Rams actually surviving there, and this could end up being sizable losses for Jidba here if he just continues to take this fight. Paladin is starting to be re-added to the mix for Sacrifice, although we saw some from Jibba here too, I guess. Let's have a look at Sacrifice's resources. A little lower than Jidba, but still plenty to be fighting with. Maintains a nice big bank of gold. Kill to death statistics, look at this, 415 kills and deaths for each player basically. Almost equal fight considering with Jibba went with the market strat, but he's not as if he's got tons more gold, does have 1k more left over, but his resources are good, he's going to be able to produce forever. And I think Sacrifice, although he's like managing to take some good fights in some places, like every time he tries to extend a little bit more, Jidba's just got the resources to push him back. And now he starts to add in this kind of mixed Paladin CA army. Jibba looking threatening again here. But on the right hand side, Sacrifice pushing out, adding Castle, Siege Workshop, maybe able to get the extra gold. Tarkan here taking down those vills. And Sacrifice even guarding a relic with 5 halbs up near to the top, making sure Jibba doesn't get control of that one too easily. Guys here saying Bass Sacrifice still having the better army control still, which is remarkable considering he's been fighting against this hill for most of the last 10 minutes or so. Jibba really tanking this, says Andrew, Democracy of Gods. And considering that Jidba was right on the edge of Sacrifice's base with a bigger army and it looked like Sacrifice was crumbling, you can't argue with that assessment too much. Sacrifice is stabilising, he's pushing back, and this is the first time that he's kind of pushed out and then hadn't had his army sort of half vaporised by Jibba's position on the hill. I think he's kind of taking fights that make sense at the moment and then evacuating the ones that don't pretty well. But at the moment he has half the army of Jidba, who... where is he keeping most of it? It seems that he's got lots back at base, not really doing anything. If Jibba was to bring all of that forward, he'd be able to probably make a decisive push here, as I don't know if Sacrifice will be able to hang on, but you have to say Sacrifice is doing a good job of holding on and trying to assert some control over this game at least. And he's got his population back up now actually, more or less getting to pop cap along with Jidba. That said, at this point I believe this is the 3rd gold of Sacrifice, and Jibba's the one who's starting to mine it a little bit. Not terribly efficiently, you have to say, but with that mining camp so far back, but I guess it stops it getting treb sniped or something as well. A little bit of raiding up here, nothing too much. Left side, Jibba likewise. Oh, this is going to be a lot of vills go down. Sacrifice isn't reacting here, those paladins are going to kill so many. On the front, seems Jibba has been repulsed once again, and Sacrifice will just deploy some trebs, try and chip away, force Jibba back from his position, stop him mining gold. Jibba does have lots of CA garrison in that castle trying to heal them up a bit, and here he comes with another huge wave. He might pop them out to join this wave if they go in. Sacrifice laying claim to gold over here.
No.
And that castle does go down. jettisoning all of the cavalry archers, but Jibba's not going to bring them into this fight. Under the fire of 2 castles. Okay, now he's regrouping them up, going to rebuild another castle nearby. That castle is at least close enough to stop Sacrifice coming out and mining this gold, where he did push forward, push Jibba's army back 10 tiles or so. Jibba is reclaiming that hill now that he had for much of the early to mid game. If he manages to get sat on that hill, I think Sacrifice is going to have a hard time pushing him off it again. Jibba still retains the larger numbers overall. That's a siege ram going to achieve nothing. Switching to military view, as I think Schwolligan said up here, Jibba is producing a lot of army from kind of all the way back at base. Hasn't really done too much forward building yet at this point. But for the first time in the game, both players are basically with the same amount of military. Sacrifice has really stabilised this, so the early market pushed by Jibba didn't really achieve a decisive advantage, even though it seemed to threaten doing so at once when the fight was here. And things are stabilising now. Will be important to see who's had the relics once this engagement kind of breaks off a bit. I guess this is a good opportunity. 3 relics for Jidba, just the 1 for Sacrifice. So where's the other one? I don't know. Must be a monk carrying it or something somewhere. I can't see the white spot on the map. Take a look at resources collected overall up to this point. It's double the gold for Jidba, and Liet's Sacrifice has basically traded evenly on kills to deaths. Remarkable defense by him on the edge of his base. Obviously that gold collected includes the market selling, just to note there. So he hasn't mined all that, but that's just a testament to how well the Sacrifice managed to repulse that market strategy that Jibba went for. And Sacrifice 20 more villagers now at this point. Jibba's equaling 20 to 30 more army, but not really putting it to use. Like whenever these 2 armies engage here, you never feel that Jibba has 20 or 30 more army on the map, or even 30 plus now, because as someone said, it is kind of coming from home all the time.
Yes.
And Jibba, I keep finding him with like idle groups of units as well, just kind of sitting around, not really being brought into the main fight, nor raiding. And if you look at the map now, although Jibba's kind of, you could also almost imagine a halfway line across the middle of the map from southwest to northeast edge, and although Jibba's encroaching over it slightly, it's basically half and half now, and we could be settling into a longish game here, although Sacrifice has 2,000 less gold, so that will be a factor. Although Jidba got a lot more gold from selling the market, and then Sacrifice had like even trades, that obviously does leave Jibba with a little bit more in the bank, and like Jibba's managing to stay at pop cap without running his resources down, keeping a couple of thousand at least of everything, whereas Sacrifice struggling for gold particularly. One reason for that, of course, is that this 3rd gold is one that he hasn't been able to take throughout the whole match, and Jibba's even mined some of it, and this is starting to look like a decent push backed up by Trebs that Sacrifice doesn't really have a way of taking down at this point. He's got no siege rams, no paladins to run in and get them, and that castle will go down, which will kind of leave the route open for Jibba to push in even further. That said, this time it's Sacrifice defending from on top of the hill against Jibba at the bottom of the hill, although Jibba's numbers are looking a lot better in terms of CA numbers at least compared to Sacrifice, but a lot of skirms on the hill doing work against the CA, whilst Jibba only has 1 or 2 rams in there. The gold count looking terribly low though for Sacrifice. He's forced to go skirms, halbs, hussars at this point. He's finished mining what was over here. Can't see him mining anywhere, to be honest. I don't think he's gathering gold, which is spells trouble, to say the least, although Jidba is also starting to make more trash of his own as well. It's the first time we've seen hussars from him. But Jidba is the one with the bank. Jibba continues to at least float 1,200, and he's mining the last remaining gold on the map. 4 relics overall. That's going to prove pretty decisive. You'd have to think. Quilala, I'm leaving the spectator chat on because it's helpful sometimes to have these insights from because these are all mostly good deathmatch players talking about the game, and you know I can relay interesting things that they say to you. I don't think it's really compromising the viewing experience at all. Sacrifice is also starting to look pretty low on food count now. He's back up to a measly 300 gold. You can see how slow that one relic brings in the gold. But I keep saying, like, Jibba's pop capped, he's got resources in the bank, but Sacrifice just takes better fights all the time, I think, because he's operating with fewer resources and less gold, and yet the kill to death ratio remains equal for Sacrifice. Sacrifice has added in a lot more trash much earlier, and yet he's taking good fights. Just the army control just definitely is better for him, I think. It's just that he doesn't have the cards in his hand to really do much more than hold the line at the end of his base with defensive trash. You know, there's no effective push coming in for Jidba at the moment, really. It's just kind of trading on the edge of Sacrifice's base. You know, this sort of thing is just basically losing gold costing units to food and wood units for no real reason, because it's not stopping it's not stopping Sacrifice getting resources. It's not creating an avenue for Siege to push in and make a real attack on Sacrifice's base. It's just keeping the enemy busy, basically. But if you're going to trade food and wood units, trash units, then Sacrifice can do that. He's got slightly more eco at this point, although lacking the relics, of course. Like I say, not going to make a difference if Jibba keeps throwing away cavalry archers. Seems like this game has just been centered on this hill forever. Kind of interesting how this forest is just dividing it and making sure that no player truly occupies it, like pushing around to the other side. Yeah, valid point in the chat. Why isn't Jibba raiding with hussars? He controls more of the map now, so Sacrifice would probably be vulnerable to Jibba just sending in hussars from different directions. I mean, most of Sacrifice's eco concentrated in one place. If hussars were to sneak into this area here, it'd be able to do really nice damage. But Jibba's just kind of sending units to their death in the middle, as I said, without ever really mounting a push. And there's no siege to make it work, so it's just an endless meat grinder of trash now, with Jidba just having the advantage of being able to add in slightly more gold units on the basis of having the relics, or 4 of the 5 relics. Jibba raiding with halbs instead, actually. Oh, I forgot what the hotkey is to cycle this down below. Oh dear, not that. Sorry guys, I'm trying to figure out how to cycle my spectator overlay back to here. I changed my hotkey slightly the other day and I can't figure it out. I've lost the kill to death statistics down here because I can't figure out how to change it. It used to be F4, but I made it slightly different. Oh, it's the scroll wheel. It's the mouse scroll wheel. There we go. Fixed it. And kill to death ratio is holding pretty similar, so Sacrifice basically still trading better despite their gold deficit, but it feels like he's, I don't know, well, I won't say his retreat from here is more focusing his attention elsewhere to kind of put out fires, And it's just funny how much work skirms are doing for him in this game. He's just got so many as one-shotting Tarkans. This is going to be nice for Jibba here, take out all this farming eco. One siege ram will take down the TC and all his villas might die. But still, besides the relics, there's not a lot in it. Really not. And like I say, the relic's not being put to good use. Sacrifice bunch Jibba to get depression. Okay, Jibba should clean all this up here. But the Hussars go down pretty quickly, and that means skirms can take out most of what's there, although more Hussars mixing in, and Sacrifice losing a lot of population there. Temporarily going down to 150 pop. Okay, he avoided losing everything over there. Seems Jibba's going to focus on pushing this left-hand side for now. And yeah, I'm struggling to see how Sacrifice holds this part. His population had gone down. Resources not terrible, like he got a lot of food, but I think he was looking at this and thinking Jibba should have 4 relics. I don't know how I'm ever going to push this, and he's not going to waste time with it. Let's have a look at total gold collected. 27k to 12k, and yet killed to death's almost equal. 4k gold to 8k in the relics. So Jibba pulls the game back. I'm gonna take a quick break, and then we'll be ready to head into game 4, which will be Huns GA, exactly what we've just seen. So going to see a rematch of that. Joys of the world. Okay, back in a sec. Hopefully game 4 won't start before I'm back. See you in a moment.
Yes. Yes.
Oh god, sorry about the muted mic, guys. Tell me if the stream's still online because my phone's saying that it's gone off again. We saw a market come out for Sacrifice, so I don't think he sold as much as Jibba did, but he had about 1,000 extra gold at the kind of point after both players had reached something close to the pop cap. Sacrifice is pushed out to take this hill in the middle of the map. Gonna get a castle, just about gonna finish a castle here, and that's gonna be enough to win this fight for him, as well as the siege rams coming in. And the important thing to note, Jibba doesn't have hills to defend on at this point. So if Sacrifice wins this fight, he can keep on pushing, and Jibba won't have a defender's advantage like Sacrifice was kind of making use of at times in the previous match to help repel the market push. Seems though that Sacrifice, maybe a tiny little bit of overextension here. He kind of moved into a concave formation of CA surrounding his, and his rams weren't there. And that fight, I don't think, went well for Sacrifice. His rams did finally arrive, but not in time to really tank too much fire. But even so, like, they have survived the clash with some of Jibba's rams, but nonetheless Sacrifice will fall back a bit. Population's looking broadly even at this point. Few more villagers for Jibba, few more military for Sacrifice, not really a big thing. But looking at the map, Sacrifice is kind of spreading his wings, TCing everywhere, TCing extra gold. Denied this extra TC on a third gold for Jibba as well. Looking at relative positions, I can see at least 2 that Sacrifice should get, 2 that possibly Jibba could get, although they are still some way from his base, and that gives Sacrifice a chance. Jibba did manage to TC over here. Let's take a look at monasteries so far. None in the bank for Sacrifice just yet. No monastery built for Jibba. That castle is done for. 6 siege rams. No real urgent reaction from Jibba to go and destroy it. So that will open the route for Sacrifice to swarm this area, take out that TC pretty easily. I mean, Jibba can react, come over here, but Sacrifice can take a few steps back, park on this hill, and take out, or take the better of that fight if he so wishes. And also the siege rams are in there. That's been a defining feature of this series. I think Sacrifice has used siege rams to better effect than Jibba has. Those CA just completely being wasted by Jibba there. Halb's going to take out an empty TC there. Okay, returning to the main fight on the right hand side. Sacrifice with a few CA on the hill. Stealing that relic that I thought was going to be Sacrifice's, although actually no, Monk getting sniped down. And Jibba focusing all reinforcement to the right hand side. He's going to take that fight and force Sacrifice back a little bit. I thought with the number of siege rams that Sacrifice had that he might take the better of that, but Jibba's reinforcements reinforcing too much. Seems Sacrifice determined to stop Jibba taking these extra golds on the map though. Don't know if that's a good fight for him, the way all of his CA are firing at one siege ram, the Paladins attacking the TC and getting killed by the CA, but siege ram's now behind and Paladins doing melee damage to the CA, and that's starting to look better for Sacrifice, although reinforcements for Jibba will mean that he needs to get out of there probably at this point. Sacrifice continues to raid more than Jibba is doing. This CA run into the back of Jibba's base could pick off a lot of villagers. And as they say, Sacrifice gets the monk. Nice steal. Jibba looking at the limit on every resource except gold and stone at this point. Sacrifice a little bit more balanced, although kind of low on gold. Sacrifice going with the approach of putting all of his relics in different monasteries. Interesting debate going on in the chat just on the side here about, they're saying that Jordan 23 would have mastered Team Random in Deathmatch. Seems the DM community very appreciative of Jordan's gameplay and its ability to transfer over to DM there. But returning to focus on this game, Sacrifice still with the better strategic position. I think he's got this middle hill. Jibba doesn't have any to defend with, and Jibba's the one suffering raiding and with fewer relics than Sacrifice at this point. Yeah, Jibba did get that one in at least. And although Sacrifice is a bit behind on getting his eco up, he's maintaining a good army count, always at least as high as Jibba pretty much, and you know, he's just continuing to apply pressure around the edges. Jibba's not crumbling by any means, but he's not able to push out into the middle of the map into the sides of the map and collect the gold from where he's got those extra TCs. And Sacrifice just applying nice pressure and then just kind of retreating when it's no good for him. It's like he's achieved his objective over here, going to regroup some army in the middle ready for a push. On the left hand side he's done good raiding. The moment Jibba reinforces with a large army, then Sacrifice just peels away, although that said he's taking this fight, which he doesn't need to do. I guess. Okay, forget everything I was saying. Commentator's curse. But Sacrifice is going to bring the whole army to go and deal with that, and right now sitting with 20 more army, or 15 more overall. Sacrifice will lay claim to what remains of this extra gold over here. One paladin is not going to stop that. If Sacrifice can mine that out, that's another nice 1200 gold to lay claim to there. This castle will be important for Jibba as it overlooks this third gold that he's probably quite reliant on now. I can't imagine there's too much left to mine in his main base, if anything. I can't see anything actually. So I think this might be the only place Jibba's getting gold from at this point, aside from that one relic. Fortunately, that castle allows Jibba to kind of place a second one a little further forward and rain down fire upon this extra gold that Sacrifice is taking, and I think Sacrifice probably lose this position now because there are just about to be 3 castles overlooking it. No way to really fight against that unless you devote all of your attention and lots of siege to it. Can we make a hippo mod that changes CA into hippos for death matches? Wow, all aboard the ram train on the right hand side, and Jibba has nothing here. Look at this, there's like 2 CA and a few albs. This could do
Yes.
sizable damage to the infrastructure of Jibba's base here. Castle, TC, few production structures down. And really Jibba's going to have to bring a lot more to shut this down, because Sacrifice does have a good amount of army supporting this. At the same time though, Jibba is winning the left hand side, so we're seeing, wow, big push in the middle as well by Sacrifice actually. 2 trebs. Going to take down that castle pretty quickly, and he'll be able to send a lot of military into Jibba's base, and Jibba's got to stop focusing all of his attention with his entire army on the left hand side and try and stop his base from being destroyed right now. This siege ram train has not been diminished in number at all, but actually 1 ram went down. Okay, big deal, 1 ram. Sacrifice will continue to just lay waste to the structure of Jibba's base and just demolish all those buildings, although Sacrifice's army went AFK from protecting the rams, and maybe Jibba will actually respond to that, but now all the villagers going down in the back. Still, Sacrifice will have to pick up a lot more villager kills to equalise it, but wow, this is a great raid, taking down all of those villagers on the gold as well. And I love how Sacrifice is playing this. He's just wheeling army in and out, left and right. Jibba's the one having to respond all the time, and when he responds, it's generally with every unit he has on the map going to one place, and Sacrifice then just initiates something somewhere else. Great play by Sacrifice at the moment, and he's actually got 20 villagers more. Oh, now army numbers remaining somewhat even. Looking at Sacrifice's point of view for the first time in a while, good amount of gold in the bank, and with 20 bills more, that low amount of wood won't be too much of an issue. Farming eco starting to look pretty decent as well.
Yes.
Whereas for Jibba, like, lots of farms, but lots of farms without any villagers actually working on them, which is unfortunate for him. Jibba's castle creep. Man, do you think he's shooting with like 100 range castles or something? I guess he's recognising the importance of this extra gold, although there is only 1100 there. And Sacrifice, important to remember actually, kind of forgotten about that, continues to sit on 4 relics, which is why Unleashed here advising him to play a little bit more defensive and not YOLO it. Not lose army to castles, basically. I mean, he's sending a bunch of rams and a bunch of army here to try and get this 1 castle down, but even if he does, there are 2 more within range of the goal. It's not an important objective for him. Like, he would need to hold the line here and stop Jibba pushing to here, but unless he's going to mount a concerted push with lots of rams and really take all this out, I wouldn't be wasting army there. That said, it does keep Jibba off gold. Maybe I'm looking at this through the wrong point of view there. He knows that he's got 4 relics and Jibba only has 1. He knows that Jibba will have mined out all this gold in his main base at this point, so being the richer player, so to speak, perhaps it is worth wasting army a little bit just to keep Jibba off gold permanently. As long as you can do that without wasting too much, it probably is a good strategy actually. And it seems that he's actually bringing siege over here, which I do like. Even if Jibba would kill his own mother for 1 gold per half used. Yep, that's what I've basically been saying. Jibba brings his whole army to 1 spot. I do like that Sacrifice is going to devote attention to actually removing the castles, because I'd rather, if he wants to attack this area, that he pushes the whole thing and wipes out the castles, rather than just kind of sending units in to idle Jibba off the goal and kill vills, but ultimately waste units. However, Jibba, as they're saying, is killing his own mother. He is sending everything over here to keep that half a gold pile. And Sacrifice's army population and population in general is falling now. Looking at his resources, it's more or less empty. He's struggling for everything, and he's the one with the 4 relics. I don't know if he's mining gold at this point. Don't think he has any mining anywhere. Nope. We're completely reliant on the 4 relics, but you'd think that with 30 more vills and having more vills throughout, he should have at least more food in the bank than he does right now. Seems that Sacrifice is not really making his villager advantage work for him, because Jibba is the one with the more balanced economy at this point, and actually with 1500 gold left in the bank. Sacrifice, I was a fan of how he was playing the game 5 minutes ago, but now he's starting to crumble a little bit. Although the KD suggests he's traded fairly well over the course of the game, basically evenly, I do think he was wasting over here. and Jidba was taking a better fight against him, not only with the castles helping out, but more of his total army being massed in that location. Haven't really seen a lot of raiding back at home for Jibba either, so Sacrifice has kind of stopped raiding a little as well. Couple of siege rams, but they won't achieve anything. Switching back to Sacrifice's point of view, Eco is starting to look in better shape now, starting to float some food, which is what he needs to keep spanning the trash in combination with the wood, and then basically wait for those 4 relics versus 1 to kick in. But he needs to get his population up, it's too low. He's got the resources to just make a lot more trash to try and halt Jidba's advance, because right now Jidba is just pushing slowly but inexorably along the left hand side. And actually split pushing, doing good job on the right hand side here as well, but he won't be able to take down that castle. It really is only destroying production facilities here. Not really rich pickings in terms of taking down villages or anything like that there. You guys want to go watch the real plays, referring to Praxis versus Suno Daywalker, which is starting right now. If anyone wants to go and watch that one, spectate on Voobly. If I don't know what time is. Yeah, it's starting more or less right now. So just a public service announcement there. Sacrifice stabilising on the left hand side here, getting more army there, but Jibba continuing to push a little bit on the right hand side. And importantly, I said he wouldn't be able to destroy the castle, but now he's brought a couple of siege rams. That will be more of a possibility, and there's a lot of vulnerable looking eco here for Sacrifice. That's 20 villages more or less going to be exposed if Jibba goes over there and finds it. Let's look, does he know it's there? Not really. Sacrifice is building a castle. Where is he putting that up? Where is it? There. Okay. Nice castle actually, because it's on a hill. It's protecting an avenue to a large amount of his economy. I mean, he does have one castle protecting this area, but another one will help stop the raiding even arriving in the economy in the first place. And it's in a nice strategic position on that hill. Sacrifice's population continues to be low. Food, eco, you know, it's there. It's got floating a little bit, but he could do with more, and then he could just do with using that to create units. Jibba's just always slightly ahead now on the military, usually like 20 more, and he's the one with a bit more initiative as a result. I mean, if these units here make their way into Jibba's base, because this could be the first time we've seen any raiding at home for Jibba in the past, I don't know, 20 minutes of game time. And I think the whole complexion of the game has changed now. It seems to be Sacrifice responding to Jibba rather than Jidba responding to Sacrifice, as it was for the first 20 minutes at least. Now Jibba is the one initiating this push in the middle, the one who was initiating down the left. Looks like Jibba's going to go for an important castle on this hill. Sacrifice is the one who's going to have some siege rams still standing to take it down though, and I think that castle doesn't have too much chance of standing too much longer if Sacrifice has enough to take down some of these units. But the army numbers are just depleted for him in this area, and Sacrifice Jibba will not only get their castle up, but he'll destroy the siege rams at the base and take the hill. And if more rams continue to come in, this is going to now prove a nice platform for Jibba to launch an attack on the outskirts of Sacrifice's base. Sacrifice a little bit of raiding in the back. Nothing too much at this stage. One trebuchet going to try and continue to fire upon that castle. It's uphill and there are villagers repairing it, probably completely out repairing that. And Sacrifice's villager numbers are just too low. 85. I think I'm right in saying, I'm struggling to remember now, that Sacrifice had a larger villager population, so Jibba has kind of made up the deficit and then created a deficit in the opposite direction, if that was the case. And Sacrifice just seems to be struggling to hold this edge, although at least his military numbers are basically even with Jibba at this point, which is the first time he's been able to say that in a while. I just feel that Jibba's slowly starting to have more initiative in this game than sacrifices. But still, it's not heavily decisive either way yet. Looks like that castle for sacrifice is going to go down rather cheaply to a couple of siege rams sneaking in here.
Yes.
Population continuing to fall for sacrifice. Jibba's starting to reinforce now. Getting back up to the pop cap. And sacrifice is raiding, not going to achieve too much in the back. Seems Jibba's just going to slowly kind of strangle life out of sacrifice. He's not pushing with any great urgency, but he's just sort of inching forward. Doing a better job of reinforcing. Can see that resources for him enable him to continue adding trash endlessly. Whereas sacrifice, story of the game really, not enough food, and he's now, if Jibba continues to push forward and take down these monasteries with that trebuchet, he's not going to be able to rely on the relics either. That said, having that advantage of 4 relics hasn't really been something that has been too visible in the fights throughout the game thus far. But still, it'll be even harder for him without them. Sacrifice doing his best to just hold the line on the edge of his town, but he's not doing anything to take out that trebuchet. Siege rams continue to arrive for Jibba as well, and monastery goes down and production facilities slowly start to be depleted. That's say, where are the reinforcements for Jibba? They're always coming from home. I really think that some more forward building would have been advisable for Jibba, because it looked like he had the edge there to make sacrifice crumble, but Jibba just stopped reinforcing for a moment. And sacrifice repels it, and we will continue. Military numbers now identical. Jibba not making those extra 30 villages tell at this point. I wonder if sacrifice will spend on another monk just to garrison the relic. It would take a little while to recoup the gold expended on doing such a thing, but I think it'd be worthwhile. And sacrifice actually starting to get more army now. His population's getting a little bit closer. I think he's kind of stopped the bleeding on parts of the map and even pushing out a little bit on the left hand side. It's looking to be getting into a long game here. Jibba's finally starting to do some more forward building, which I've said would be helpful for him, so he's not having to reinforce from the other side of the map all the time. He's had the initiative and the control over the middle areas of the map to do that forward building for a while back, although I don't know, perhaps it's something that isn't as seen in DM, I don't know, I haven't seen enough games to say that, but certainly if it was random map players would be trying to build a lot more forward on the ground than they would take, so the reinforcement distance was closer. Looks like sacrifice did indeed go with that monk to put the other relic in the monastery. And Jibba's starting to be, well, it's been probably been pretty long goal for a long time. You can see he's basically completely out, whereas sacrifice got a couple of hundred to make another siege weapon, and he's gathering it a lot bit more. Also interesting to note was that Jibba did add in another market, so he's probably selling a little bit of food and wood to get that trickle of gold, maybe to just add in extra siege. Interesting to see a market being rebuilt in later game, but sacrifice likewise had the same thing. think a really long game starting to develop here, because the problem is that for Jibba, like with the one relic, he's just struggling to get mountain off siege to push, which means he's trading trash with sacrifice, but he never really has enough army to really decisively win a fight, which means if he wins a fight, he sacrifice reinforces from the closer distance and then pushes him back, and he doesn't have the siege to actually really make any fight that he win actually tell in terms of destroying buildings or destroying eco. It really is just a war of attrition in every sense at the moment. Looks like Jibba is achieving something on the right hand side there now, though, as sacrifice concentrates everything on the middle. Populations, sacrifice did fall a bit, but starting to get in closer again to where Jibba is. Same amount of military. Like, the players just aren't dealing decisive blows against each other, and that means that this game looks set to continue for quite some time now. The longer it goes, of course, the 4 relics will, let's assume, yeah, he's got 2 in each monastery now. The 4 relics will continue to make a difference for sacrifice, but you know, it is in the end just a trickle of gold. It's a few extra rams, it's 1 extra trebuchet every now and again. They have to be put to good use. Kill to death's almost identical. It's ridiculous how many times I've said that during these games. 1500 kills and 1500 deaths each at this point, but population difference opening up once more. I think that in the last minute or so, as we focused on this area, an important thing is that sacrifice has just been feeding units into the meat grinder of the uphill, and it's starting to really pay off for Jibba that sacrifice has been doing that. And I think what this is a function of, I've been complaining that Jibba's been kind of sending units in waves rather than reinforcing properly, and every time he'd seem to win a fight, he wouldn't then reinforce it. Throughout the last couple of minutes at least, we've constantly seen Jidba actually just feeding in those reinforcements, and that has led to sacrifice finally losing his grip on the edge of his town and being depleted too much to actually hold on, and he calls it a 1 hour 6 minutes in game time. Pretty long game and a very bloody trash war there to decide that. In the end, the extra relic gold for sacrifice not making a difference. 5k extra gold collected overall, but Jibba takes it. I think he was on the defensive, responding to sacrifice for a long time, but there was a moment when that complexion of the game just changed somewhat, and Jidba kind of started to have the initiative, but it took him a long time to make that actually pay off for him. So 2-2, Jidba asking to finish tomorrow. Next time warm up, Jidba, please, somebody says. Sacrifice is considering the offer to play the rest of the games tomorrow.